Hey everyone, I'm Rob with MMORPG.com. Today I have with me Mark Jacobs of City State Entertainment. Hello, Mark.
Hey, Rob.
How are you doing?
Well, much better than I had a week to recover from the Kickstarter.
I can imagine. Thanks for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us. I do know, I guess you guys had a little vacation from, it was almost, what, a 2-month marathon, if you take into account the month before the Kickstarter even launched that you guys were doing press.
Absolutely. Not only press, but the team was, at the beginning of the month, was trying to get some things with Oz done so we could keep some promises we made to our users there, and then we had to do the Kickstarter at the same time. And so, yeah, the last 2 months were just crazy.
So I'm actually an Android user, so I'm looking forward to seeing Oz on our devices soon.
Oh, yeah, it should be very soon. We are probably about 2 days away from having the free iPad version up and running, and once that is solid, because we want to soft launch that tech, and launching on the iPad first makes sense. And then once we're sure that's solid, we'll launch it on Android as well.
All right. Well, let's get back to CU, because I'm sure all the people in the chat room are really here to hear about that. It looks like you guys, numbers of this morning, your final Kickstarter take was $2.232 million. Congratulations. And you guys have earned almost another 100,000. You were at like 96,312 through PayPal this morning. So you're right at over 2.3. So you guys have got your first 2 stretch goals. Do you want people to continue to, and can they continue to contribute through PayPal, or is there something else that you'd like people to do going forward that want to get in?
Well, certainly for the next couple weeks, PayPal will be open at the same level as our founders on Kickstarter. We did that obviously as a courtesy to our European players who didn't have or don't use a credit card, just as for some of the U.S. and other territories, other countries, also for people who didn't use a credit card. But once that's done, we're going to shut PayPal down for a little bit. And when we go back up, there'll be essentially pre-order levels, which will not be as, let's say, robust or generous as the current pledge levels. These pledge levels are for people who are in right from the beginning. And so some tiers are going to go away, and all tiers are going to be changed from where they are today.
All right. So for the people that haven't really been paying a lot of attention, because there have been a number of MMO Kickstarters recently, and now that this is going to be a reality and not just a possibility, what kind of synopsis would you give to them of what Camelot Unchained is going to be and what they can expect going forward in the next few years?
I'm sorry. What it's going to be, obviously, is an RVR focus. That's what we'll do the next 2 years. Now, in terms of what they can expect to see from us, well, we're going to get the forums up, hopefully, for some early testing on Monday with people outside of the company. Once we're sure that they're pretty solid, we will send out a survey to all of our backers, get their email addresses and other pertinent things, because we don't get that from Kickstarter, and then invite them to the forums. And really, over the next 2 years, they're going to see a lot of development, a lot of polls. We're going to be asking our backers for all sorts of feedback and, frankly, voting on things like, for example, one of the races. We're going to leave that up to the backers. We'll put out some possibilities for them, and we're going to let them vote on that. They'll see a monetized version of the Smackhammer demo. People just were having so much fun in it. We're going to make it, an app and put it out there. And again, just a heck of a lot of development, Rob. They probably won't see as many updates, obviously, as during the Kickstarter, because that puts too much pressure on the team to have 1 or 2 a day. But they will see at least weekly updates in terms of what we've done, what's going on. Some will be video, some will be text, and weeks that we have more to show, we'll have additional updates then as well. But as you know from following MMOs, getting a lot of progress, or making a lot of progress, excuse me, over the course of a week is tough enough. Trying to get more than that would be really you don't want to say impossible, but it would be put a real strain on everybody.
I was very impressed with how quick you guys took concept art to models to actually in-game in a demo with Andrew's tech demo he had. You know, it's just, I was really surprised at how fast you guys were able to do that. Because like you said, these are, especially with the art, this is something that's time and labor intensive for people to do, and how quickly you did it.
Well,
So,
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. We have a very talented art team. They're young. Some of them have never worked in the game. Most of them, frankly, have never worked in the game industry before. But they're young and talented, and I think players are going to see the same thing with our next few concepts. We can turn this around fairly quickly. We will use Smackhammer as well as you know, the Unchained engine demo, and put the models in there. I mean, I saw today most of the initial animations for the TDD, and hopefully by the end of the day we'll actually have the first attack animation, you know, real attack animation, not the stuff we had to put up for the Kickstarter, also by the end of the day. So we may even have an update tomorrow, who knows. Though I must admit that since Star Trek is opening, I will probably take the team for a movie.
I don't blame you. I almost went and saw it at midnight last night, but I didn't. Kind of wish I had.
Yeah, me too.
So just, you talked about the TDD. I appreciate that, because I can tell you that's going to be who I'm playing. So
Awesome.
I'd like to see that you're showing them some love. I may have been a HIB in DAOC, just a little bit. So,
well, then you'll like the next race we're going to work on too, because it belongs to that side as well.
that's great. One of the things that I've actually kind of got looped into the side of us as well, besides the tech demo, is showing some of the Viking and the TDD artwork. Do you have anything for the third faction, really, or the third realm, really, to show yet? Or is that going to be later on down the line?
Well, what we showed at the end, the last bit we showed was actually associated with the Arthurians. Did you see the Bardish sound music class race?
No, I don't know how I missed that one, but apparently I did.
Yeah. So check it out. It has a whole kind of gargoyle feel to it.
It's awesome. So, speaking of gargoyles, and it kind of makes me think of like objects lurking. Can we talk about the depths? And I mentioned lurking because player characters kind of working as enemy NPCs down there lurking.
Rob?
Mark, you there?
Oh. God, you went quiet. Can you repeat that? Because all I got was lurking.
Yeah, it's the depths. It just kind of makes me think of, you know, people lurking down there and on the enemy faction. So I just wanted, if you could talk a little bit about the depths and how that's going to play out and what you envision that as, because that's one of the more interesting concepts that you've talked about recently.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. In terms of the lurking and the depths and all that, well, what I can talk about right now really is just mostly what I talked about during the Kickstarter, is that we envision it as a place where a lot more active in terms of the inter-realm combat than even Darkness Falls was, you know, back for Camelot. We really want to make that place you know, full of fun and frolic and fiends. You know, we want players to come in there and want to control it, but also have a bit of excitement about not controlling it as well, or losing control, because it will allow them to do things that they couldn't do when they were in control. And, that's one of the big differentiators between this and Darkness Falls, or, most other, almost all other, MMOs that I've seen, is that we really want to spend a fair amount of time on making the depths fun when you lose it, right? Because if you look at Darkness Falls or anything like that, what may be coming up, obviously in Elder Scrolls or in other games I've tried, a similar concept, losing it generally isn't fun. Yeah, nothing good comes from that. Well, we want to make it fun. We don't want people to just go, oh, we lost, damn, time to go home, or, let's try to hang out and maybe we'll be able to gank somebody who's not paying attention. We want to give players a real opportunity to enjoy the loss. Because, look, this is an RVR game. There is no, PvE leveling. There is no other activities in terms of combat that you can do, really, other than RVR. Yeah, you can kill some, PvE monsters, certainly within the depths. Yes, you can kill some PvE monsters, outside in the main world. But it's not going to be all that useful, as I've said, in leveling or item drops. So this could be, in terms of giving players something else to do. Their side's outnumbered and they've just lost the depths, and now, they can decide to stay and really be active and really be annoying and really be, a thorn in the side of the winning team. And if you look at that from, a larger gameplay perspective in terms of RVR, where the least numbered side, might team up with number 2 to work against number 1, or they may, want to take on some guerrilla actions against both of them. If, in this case, the side loses control is the weaker side, or weakest or weaker side, they can make a decision to stay and really cause havoc for the guys who control that. And I think that's going to be a really interesting dynamic in the game.
I agree. That's what had me talking about the gargoyles. It's just I envision those as something that lurks and keeps watch over everything. So I thought I read something or heard something when you were talking about the Kickstarter and the depths is the possibility of people taking over like mobs in the area and
Yes.
being a hindrance. So that's where the whole gargoyle and lurking thing reference came from. So
Absolutely.
you've got some wonderful, by the way, ideas that we haven't really seen implemented in a lot of stuff. And we talked about this one last time after the interview, and it was one of your BSC ideas that you dropped for crafting at the end, and that was if you kill somebody, you basically get like a part of their soul or their essence.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can in turn use this as a commodity and trade it or use it in crafting, and if somebody had a part of your soul, you would kind of be able to tell that they were around, not necessarily like a pinging them on the map and go find them. But have you guys really thought a whole lot about that more and how you could implement that in Camelot Unchained, or is that something that's still just on the shelf that you guys might break out?
Oh, well, we certainly have talked about it a lot more than we talked about it in the Kickstarter. We talked about it before the Kickstarter, and we've talked about it, briefly, of course, after the Kickstarter as well. No, we're really excited about the soul concept. We think it also can add another really interesting dynamic, to the game, not only just in the things you mentioned, but also maybe it allows you to access other abilities, right? Maybe if you could get enough souls or enough pieces of a soul of a certain other player, maybe you can wrap some of their abilities or the other realm's abilities into what you work, whether you're a fighter, whether you're a mage, a healer, etc. So there are some, really interesting things we hope to do with it. I think that, when it comes to new ideas, whether it's souls or how we're going to work the depths, that's something we have to focus on for this game. We're not going to have the budget, obviously, of not only WoW, but even what EverQuest 2 was. We're not anywhere near that level. And so, we can't rely on some of the things that other games can. But what we can try to do is offer things, whether it is the Depths or the Souls or the Veil, that offer players a really different experience from what they can get in most MMOs. So, that is something we're going to continue to explore not only internally, but with our backers over the next 2 years.
Another subject that's really near and dear to my heart, and I just kind of threw a video up of it on the side here, is your crafting of the building system prototype. Do you want to talk a little bit about how actual building, housing, and stuff like that is going to work in CU?
Can't really say, honestly, I can't say much more than we talked about in the video, and not because I'm being all secretive, but because we haven't gone that much further, honestly. We talked about, and I could talk about basic material types and, things like that, but nothing terribly exciting yet other than what we've shown, which we thought was pretty exciting to begin with. If you want to talk about the ideas of deconstruction, that the players can go and instead of burning down a house, can have their builders come out and take away pieces of it, or look for certain things within the house, certain materials that can't be found in their own realm. And this is analogous, of course, to Souls. So, maybe certain materials that, are associated with the Arthurians or the Vikings or the TDD aren't found in certain other realms. Well, when you come in and you capture some territory, maybe your guys can go in, deconstruct some of the properties or some of the materials, and use them in your realm. Another way to not only have a bit of a trophy, but maybe also get some other abilities that might be associated with the materials.
Okay, and another thing I think is going to really differentiate you guys from the MMO pack out there, besides just being an RVR-centric MMO, is the fact that you're really going to work on horizontal progression as opposed to vertical progression. And I think that's a really key differentiator, and I'd really appreciate it if you spend a few minutes talking about that with our viewers.
Sure. So, I think you're absolutely right, Rob. It is not only a key differentiator, but it's also something that we absolutely need in order to be successful. The vast majority of games obviously rely on vertical progression. And for a game like ours, could we do that? Absolutely. But I don't think it's the best way to do it. And so, we're going to implement it in a number of ways. First, you have to understand the basic leveling system, say for stats. So let's just assume now we have a strength stat, because certainly whether we call it strength or physical ability or something else, though right now it's strength, that will go up the more you use it. So if you're a fighter, your strength will level through use. That will apply as well to other classes and to everything, frankly, you do in the game. So that's one bit of leveling we'll have. In terms of leveling up abilities themselves, we see that working. And unfortunately, I can't talk as much as I want to, because that would also tie into our magic system, and I'm saving that for an update for our players, because I want to do something kind of fancy for that one. But it's more the idea that as you progress in a certain skill, other skills will unlock off that skill, and other skills will unlock as well off skills that you have now just unlocked from your first one. It won't be a question of zero vertical progression versus all vertical progression, because you do need to get better in your skill, right? I think that that's something that players, even who are fans of horizontal progression, want to see a betterment, an improvement of their core skill. Now, you can do it very shallowly, just like strength, where let's say you have an ability for Fireball. That Fireball should get a little bit better over time, but it shouldn't be that Fireball 6 months later is now the most awesome Fireball ever cast, because that would be vertical progression. Right? But if you allow people to, level, I don't want to say level it up, but improve their ability with it a little bit. So maybe it improves the cast time a little bit, or the failure rate, or things like that. Once you master it, then additional abilities could come off using, could come from that fireball that you could use as well. And there'll also be an interconnectivity between abilities, so that maybe as you use one and then you use another one, that once you master those, another ability will come up. And yeah, that's about all I can say right now.
All right. One of the key components of a previous game that you worked on that they don't have anymore, and I actually think it's a shame, and a lot of people agree with me, is one of the things you had as a goal in your, or a stretch goal, and that's your Herald. Are you prepared to kind of tell people what functionality the Herald, or for people that unfortunately never got to experience the Herald originally, what it's going to contain and what it could mean for the people to be immersed inside of the game when they're not actually playing it?
Well, it's interesting because I've gotten a lot of feedback from people already saying that they love the Herald, but some of them actually think that it's anti-immersive, which I find, interesting, as well as that it hurts Realm Pride. Now, from my perspective, I'm all for having all the abilities we had on the Herald, as well as look at other games like obviously WoW's Armory, and really, see what else we can add to it. I think it's actually quite important for our game. I think it is something that, frankly, a lot of games should have had that didn't, excuse me. So, I can't go into details about what it will have because we, frankly, have not laid it out. That is something that is going to be talked about not only with our backers, but we're not even going to look at exactly what features we're going to put in for that for at least another 6 months to a year in terms of a real Herald. Now, we will have things before that, of course, that are recording, what players are doing, that, people will be able to check up on each other because they're all beta testers. But a real Herald, that's going to take some time because we want to get it right, because I do think it's a very important, feature for not only, our current backers, at least the majority of them, I hope, but also other players as well.
All right. Camelot Unchained, at this point, we all, understand that it's a working title. Do you have anything in mind to where you kind of know what it might end up being, or are you holding on to that, keeping it in your pocket for a later date, or?
Yeah, I've got some ideas, and yes, we're keeping it in our pocket until we get our backer forums up. That's something that I do want to discuss with them. We've got an email from both sides, frankly, where a lot of people have asked us to keep the name, that they love it, as well as other people saying, no, let's have a new name. My inclination is the same one it was when we started, which was that this is a working title. It's not that I don't like it. I like it a lot, but it's not the title I want for this game. So we will throw out some options to our backers. We're still talking here about some of the ideas we've got kicking around. But that is something that, they get to hear first as our backers.
All right, so you're actually going to allow, I didn't know if that was going to be something you took a vote on or not, the name of the game. I thought it might be something you reserved for yourself.
Oh, right now we're still going to reserve it for ourselves, but I want people's opinion. If we put out an idea that 90% of the guys say we hate it, well, we're not going to do that. That would be silly. But my guess is that won't be the case, but who knows? It might be close, and that is something I want to reserve, for the studio. Obviously, we want our backers' input on a lot of things, but this is not a game, no game, frankly, can be done with getting everyone's approval on every feature of the game. That's not a way to design a game. But there are things that we absolutely want their feedback on in the way of a poll, and then their feedback on any systems we have in there, any mechanics, things that are problems, my God, of course we want that. But there is, I think, a very distinct difference between wanting feedback and putting up a poll going, if you don't like this, let us know because we won't put it in. And we will do that a lot, but obviously not on everything.
I don't envy your position here, because I got a feeling you're going to be very split, and you're going to have a very polarized poll when you put this up, because you're going to have everybody that you're going to have a lot of people that like the name, and you're going to have people that like the name but don't want it to be, you know, so associated with previous projects you've worked on. They're like, you absolutely have to change the name so the game can have its own identity and stand on its own. So it's
and that's what oh, sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. I don't envy the guy that has to say, oh man, when you got a 50-50, you're going to go one way or the other, and someone's going to be pissed off at you.
And we're going to have that on, I'm sure we're going to have that there, and we're going to have that on other issues as well, which is another reason why you don't put everything out for a poll. I mean, people have funded us to make a great game. Obviously, they want us to hear their feedback. That we will do. We also give them lots of opportunities to vote on certain things, like a race, because, you know, we'll put out options for the players, and we'll let them decide. You know, that was one of the things I said during the Kickstarter. There may be some other ideas as well that we will put up on in terms of a poll. But there's, I think, again, a huge difference between a poll and feedback. We want feedback always, but a poll we couldn't do for everything. That would, again, make absolutely no sense, because frankly, a lot of times you just have to do something even though you know some of your people won't like it. You know, because nothing, no matter what game you're trying to make, and it doesn't matter whether it is, you know, Camelot Unchained or Oz or, you know, Shroud of the Avatar or Project Eternity, no matter what game you're making, you're never going to please everybody. And so any attempt to even try to do that will just fail miserably.
All right, and I got one last one for you about the IP itself before we kind of wrap this up. And that's, you know, the Arthurian legend obviously is kind of a public domain deal at this. You know, a lot of people do different things with this kind of history behind it. What do you think in your game is going to be the most unique feature or your most unique twist on this legend that'll really put CU's stamp on it?
Well, just about everything from the beginning. I mean, honestly, Rob. So, you know, we start off with an apocalypse, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, this is not the Camelot as I hear about. This is not the Camelot of Dark Age of Camelot. This is not the Camelot of the books that have been written or the movies that have been made about Camelot. Our TDD and the inhabitants, you know, of that realm are not going to be necessarily something that is even expected or normally associated with the Sidhe. Our Vikings will be different as well. We're using the Camelot legends and the legends, again, of the Sidhe and of the Vikings, you know, only as a jumping off point. From there, everything changes. And there's going to be even more change coming when we show the emissaries and what else has happened to the world. Camelot Unchained again draws on a lot of very familiar legends that I loved and I know other people love. But just as Dark Age tried to put a unique spin on a lot of things to make the game Dark Age of Camelot and not Camelot, it is critical for us to take these legends, and obviously different ones even from what we used, of course, with Camelot, and make them our own. And if, you know, obviously you've seen our TDD, and if you go and, you know, check out what we released at the end of the Kickstarter, you know, for that race, and, you know, go, wow, I can see this isn't quite, you know, what I might have expected. We're going to keep doing that. You know, I want to keep throwing twists, you know, and turns at the players. You know, I don't want this to be, you know, generic in any way. The races need to be interesting. The classes need to be interesting. And I know it sounds like hyperbole, and I've tried very hard to avoid it, you know, during the campaign. And I am going to try to avoid it now. But we are trying to make a very, very unique take on these sort of legends and stories. And so, you know, it isn't going to be exactly what people expect, but that's okay. That's what we've been saying right from the beginning. Well, we might have some races and classes that have been used before, and certainly races that have been found in the legends, because we don't want to make everything up, anew, like the Strim. We want to take what has gone before, what has been written, what has been, used over the centuries, and make it really cool and make it very different at the same time. So, whether it's the Veil or the Apocalypse or the Emissaries, everything about Camelot Unchained's backstory will be, if not unique, will be different enough from the core legends that it will become identified with CSE. And frankly, I think the Veil itself and the Apocalypse are, quite different, from anything else, or almost everything else certainly out there. And even the Depths, too, already is quite a differentiator, wouldn't you say?
Yes, sir. That's probably within the top 3 things that you've been talking about that I'm looking forward to. I'd have to say first is the Soul system. I hope your BSC idea makes its way in there. The second is just the crafting and the housing system, how that'll tie in, and then the third, just the different lore and stuff. So, welcome back from vacation.
Well,
we appreciate
you.
your time. We're looking forward to the fruits of your hard work and labor. We'll be tracking you closely over the next 2 years. And when would you say you're going to have your backers forums up?
Hopefully we will begin some external testing on them on Monday. They've been up and running now for days. We had a very quick for them up right before we left that we played with a bit over break. So hopefully on Monday we'll bring in people besides ourselves to be on it and to make sure that everything that we've had to customize for them is working. We've already written custom code, and we're going to write more custom code to add some of the features we need to the software. So hopefully, everyone will start to be. Hopefully, everyone will get in within the next few weeks. One of the bits of custom code, as you can imagine, that we had to write was a way of, that we have to write, we haven't written it yet, to take a list of email addresses and passwords and put them into the forums, because everyone wants to enter 15,000 names manually.
That's not fun.
No. And by the way, in terms of BSC ideas and the souls, I honestly can't imagine them not going in. I think it is something that is so much fun and has such wide-ranging implications for the game. I really want to see it. I'm really looking forward to designing the system, around it, and I can't wait. Frankly, that's one of the things I can't wait to use myself as a player.
You're going to have to put bounties on getting your souls back.
Absolutely. I mean, when you think about it, from just a number of perspectives, it opens up so many interesting possibilities. Other than, as you say, the blip on the radar, because we're not going to put that up. That's not going to happen. Seeing them glow is one thing. Because we've been very clear that there isn't going to be the kind of radar or map system that other games have. But I think when you look at what players will be able to do with it and the enjoyment I think that players will be able to get out of it, especially if we do add the bit where you can get some other abilities, from the other realms, that really throws quite a change up at things. So, we'll have to see what happens, but I hope especially that does go in, and I think it will.
All right. Well, I look forward to getting to talk to you again on the backers forums, because I personally was a backer as well.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And you have a great afternoon. Thanks for stopping by.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Rob.
You're welcome.